Hey, beautiful people of the internet, how are you guys doing today? Hopefully great, and welcome back. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about 5 potentially great Warframes for Archon hunts. Now, the information in this video is purely speculation, as we are going to be using the info that DE did tell us during DevStream 163. Once again, if you guys would like to see my version of the recap, there will be a link down in the description, and of course, it will be suggested to you guys at the top right. But before I continue with the video any further, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys would like to support me or the channel any further, remember to leave a like, as this does help me out tremendously. Spartan the subscribe button for more Warframe videos and streams. And also, ladies and gentlemen, we do have a Discord server, so if you guys would like to go and play with me outside of YouTube or doing any one of my live streams, go ahead and join it. Without further ado, let's get this one on the road, shall we? So, taking up our number 5 spot when it comes to great Warframes for Archon hunts is going to be Blessing Trinity. Now, Blessing Trinity is by far the greatest support frame out there. Not only does it give you and your teammate health and energy along with damage reduction, but of course it does make the wielder's life so much easier when it comes to playing their role. If you guys didn't know, playing a supportive role in any video game is actually going to be relatively difficult, because there's a lot of stress, especially if the conditions require you to go and make sure that you and your teammate are alive, and of course respawning will be restricted during the Archon hunts. Not only does Trinity give you, health, but of course damage reduction on top of energy vampire, but that depends on, how many Trinities you want. If you want to take full advantage of, EV Trinity and Bless Trinity, then you're just going to have to go and run 2 individual trins, as let's be honest about one thing. When you guys are making a Bless Trinity, you have to go and mod for duration, whereas EV, you have to mod for negative duration. In fact, as little as possible when it comes to duration in general. So there is that. And of course, if you guys would like to go and see my Bless build, there will be a link down in the description. I didn't really make an EV build, as I didn't really see it being any necessary whatsoever. And I do believe I do have 2 builds for 1 Trinity. I can't exactly remember. Once again, go and consult that particular video. Taking up our number 4 spot is Oberon, aka the Phoenix Man himself. And why I say this is mainly because of the fact that he has this one organ called Phoenix Renewal, and basically what does is you'll be able to be given a second chance if you guys do go and die at life. So let's say that you guys are fighting a tough enemy and it just goes and munches your health, and Oberon's healing wasn't enough to sustain yourself. One thing I do want to say is that Phoenix Renewal will then prevent you from dying, or therefore going into last stand, and it'll then give you a second chance at life. However, that second chance at life will then be used up and will have a 90-second cooldown. In other words, you need to make sure that you go and stay alive for 90 seconds until you can go and replenish the Phoenix Renewal effects. Once those 90 seconds are up, then you've got your second life back. But of course, Oberon also does provide you with a ton of armor. He does give you some immune effects to status, whatever the type, whether it's magnetic, slash, toxin, any elemental type that will be hitting you and your squad. Oberon will simply negate them if you guys are standing on his grassy area. Very powerful Warframe, and of course he will be providing you with some armor on top of that. I'm not talking about a percentage of what you currently have. I'm talking about a base armor, like a straight up flat value. So if you guys do have enough power strength, you'll be able to go and provide yourself along with your allies with around 1,000 power strength, depending on how much power strength you currently have, or 1,000 armor. Scales off of the amount of power strength mods you currently do have. Taking up our number 3 spot is Rhino's Roar. Now, why I say this is purely because of the fact that not only can Rhino go and buff his allies, but of course he can go and provide some crowd control at most. Now, when it comes to Rhino's Roar, it's actually very, very, very potent as it is used to go and take out Eidolon limbs. Remember, the more power strength you currently have on Rhino, the higher the damage multiplier will be. And Rhino is one of those few Warframes out there that can actually go and give you a multiplicative damage multiplier onto your Warframe's weapons. And it takes into consideration after the mods, not before the mods. So therefore, you're going to be seeing a ton of damage. Now, when it comes to crowd control, there are other frames out there, and at the time of making this video, I was going to be talking about some crowd control, but I actually forgot what I was going to be saying. Taking up our number 2 spot is Harrow, aka the Priest of Warframe. Now, Harrow is basically a phenomenal support frame. Not as powerful as Trin, as some certain conditions need to be met in order to make sure that Harrow can continuously go and provide himself and his allies with a ton of energy and of course healing. And on top of that, when it comes to using Harrow, the main issue with them is that it makes the wielder's life a living nightmare, as you need to make sure that you go and kill the enemies, and of course you are having enough damage reduction. Because let's be honest about one thing, if you guys were paying attention to DevStream 163, when they show us about these Archon hunts, some of these enemies will be starting from around level 130. I don't know about you guys, but with level 130, those enemies will hit like absolute trucks, and they'll absolutely go and decimate Harrow's, health pool like it is nothing crazy. But if you guys can take full advantage of Harrow and know exactly how to go and stay alive with them, he will be a massive use, mainly because of his 4, which will give yourself and your allies a ton of crits. In fact, all your weapons will then be taken into red crit territory. Now, I don't know about you guys, but red crits are actually the dopamine of Warframe. Basically, who doesn't like seeing red crits? When you see red crits, you do feel like you have an absolute behemoth of a weapon. And finally, taking up our number 1 spot is going to be Vault, aka the Electric God. So Vault can be used for a variety of things: speed, nuking, or quote-unquote nuking, and of course your Eidolon shield based build, where basically Vault is the go-to frame when it comes to taking out Eidolon limbs, or particularly those shields. What makes Vault such a great Warframe, especially for your operator, is mainly because he is the only Warframe out there that can influence the damage of your operator's amp. And on top of that, if you guys take out a normal weapon and shoot right through the shield, your critical damage output will slightly be increased. I'm not sure what the exact multiplier is. You guys are going to be doing some more, research on this before you know how to go and make sure to find out what the meta build is for the Archons. And do keep in mind, this video is a subjective one, and on top of that, things are bent to go and change because we are basing all this information on speculation. Now, I do have some other frames I can talk about, but depending on how well this particular video does do well, if it does really great, then you can definitely go and expect a part 2, as I am very confident that we do have some frames out there that I have missed out on, whether it's Nova or any other crowd control frame or any other support frame